Anyone who has spent more than a few days in Chicago knows Chicagoans love our flag, maybe even to an obsessive degree. But how much do you really know about the flag? Parts of the flag represents the city's geography. The white stripes representing the city's north, west, and south sides. The blue stripes representing the north and south branches of the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. The 4 six-pointed stars in the flag each represent a historical event. The first star represents Fort Dearborn. Chicago in 1803 was just a military outpost, a few farmers and traders. In 1812, war broke out between the U.S. and Britain. An order came for the fort to be abandoned and for its soldiers to aid in the defense of Detroit. Imagine abandoning Chicago for Detroit. As they were evacuating the fort, a band of 55 soldiers and 40 civilians were ambushed by a force of 500 native Potawatomi. 67 people were killed that day. The fort would eventually be rebuilt, and the city of Chicago over the decades would go around it. The former location of Fort Dearborn is now the corner of Michigan Avenue and Wacker Drive. Embedded plaques on the sidewalk and statues on the adjacent bridge now commemorate the fort, which had so much to do with Chicago's founding. Our next star represents the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. The fire started at a farmhouse in what was then the city's west side. The fire spread and burned through the mostly wooden city for over 24 hours. 300 people would die. Over 17,000 buildings were destroyed, and over 100,000 people would be left homeless. The original Palmer House Hotel had just opened 13 days before the fire and was completely destroyed. As it turns out, someone at the city had an epic sense of irony. The O'Leary Farm, where the fire started, is now the site of the Chicago Fire Department Academy. The third star represents the 1893 World's Fair, also known as the Columbian Exposition. This event had an absolutely massive impact on modern-day Chicago. The fair was meant to celebrate the 400-year anniversary of Columbus's discovery of the New World. Years before the expedition, Chicago decided that the city hosting the fair should have a population of over 1 million. It then began annexing nearby suburbs, whose names may sound familiar. Hyde Park, Roseland, Lakeview, Rogers Park, West Ridge were all annexed within 4 years leading up to the fair. Over its 6-month run, the fair would have over 27 million visitors. Nikola Tesla's generator designs powered the fair, and he had his own exhibit. It introduced the first Ferris wheel and the first train powered by a third rail. Most of the structures built were designed to be temporary, but 2 are still with us. The Palace of Fine Arts became the Museum of Science and Industry, and the World's Congress Building was converted to the Art Institute of Chicago. Our final star represents Chicago's 1933 World's Fair, called the Century of Progress. It was also a celebration of the city's centennial. It took place in the midst of the Great Depression and was a rare financial success for the time. Thank you for joining me for this small look into Chicago's past.